emotional intelligence. By a show of hands, how many of you have heard the acronym EQ, short for emotional intelligence? I'm sure if I said IQ, all of your hand would automatically go up without hesitating. According to an article written by Michael Akers and Grover Porter for the Psych Central, emotional intelligence is more important than one's IQ in attaining success in lives and their careers. That is why it is important that each and every one of us must develop the mature emotional intelligence skills to better motivate, empathize, and negotiate with one another. Now, I know the question most of you may have right now, which is, what is emotional intelligence? Good afternoon, everyone, and how's it going? As you know, my name is Ginsley Isidore, and today I have the pleasure to share with you exactly what emotional intelligence is and its four components. By the end of my speech, I hope to teach you everything there is to know about it, and so you can practice it and use it to connect with people on a much deeper level. In a few words, according to Howard Gardner, an influential Harvard theorist, our EQ level is the ability to understand one another, see what motivates them, and to work cooperatively with them. In a few words, emotional intelligence is how we measure one's capacity to be aware of, have self-control, and able to handle interpersonal relationship with good judgment and with good sense as well as with empathy. Now that I have your curiosity and shared with you the broad meaning of emotional intelligence, let's shift our focus and dive deeper on the topic to individually break down the four pillars that create the fundamental emotional intelligence as a whole. Emotional intelligence is composed of four components. First, we have self-awareness. Secondly, we have self-regulation. Next, we have empathy. And last but not least, we have social skills. Now that you know the four basic components of emotional intelligence, let's shift our focus and learn about the first one. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize our actions and emotions and recognizing how our actions have the influence to hurt others as they are happening. According to Shara Kendra and her article about the 5 key components of emotional intelligence, someone who is self-aware always keeps their cool and are able to handle even the most awkward social situation with grace. Being self-aware, that means that we have a clear picture of oneself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now that you are aware of yourself of what emotional awareness is, let's move on to the second aspect of EQ, self-regulation. Self-regulation is about controlling how long we let an emotion control us. We have to take control and not let these emotions control us. To have good self-regulation, we have to take control of our actions and not let our choices control us and get the best of us. We're guilty to falling short when we come to self-regulation because we tend to quickly lash out and get angry the second someone tells us something we're not pleased with. Are any of you guilty of quickly wanting the iPhone 11 Pro as soon as it came out? Having self-regulation means that first, we analyze the pros and cons of our choices, then compare and contrast the cause versus the benefit between the two. One way to imply this component in our life is to have self-control. In Sherry's article from Very Well Mind, she described how those who are skilled in self-regulation tend to be more flexible and adapt well to changes. They are also good at managing conflict and diffusing tense or difficult situations. Now that you have a pretty good idea on the first two components of emotional intelligence, it's time to move on to the third component, empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand exactly what and how someone is feeling in any given situation. To put it simply, Jason Bridges in his TED Talk speech titled The People Currency, Practicing Emotional Intelligence, he simply describes it as putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. Have you ever heard the phrase from the book of Matthew and Luke from the Bible that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you? The question we have to personally ask yourself is, if it was in fact me who was in this situation, how would I want other people to treat me? Now you may be thinking, how can I recognize how someone is feeling in a given situation? The answer is simply listening. Wow! I did not see that answer coming. Now that I have given you the basic understanding of the first three components of emotional intelligence, let's move on to the fourth component. Social skills. Social skills is all about building rapport and staying connected with one another. Having social skills help us develop and manage strong relationships, which help better motivate and encourage people. To better improve our social skill, we have to communicate often and effectively. Communication is the number one way to build trusting relationship and to be able to collaborate with one another. If I were to ask you now, are you familiar with the term emotional intelligence? I hope now, after learning about it, your answer changes from a no to a yes, and you are able to put everything that I've shared with you in perspective and practice it by being emotionally intelligent whenever you find yourself stuck behind a very slow driver, or the next time someone is talking behind you and you're deaf, or the next time you have to communicate with someone, or the next time someone less fortunate than you is on the street and asking for your help. What you have to do is put yourself in their shoes. I hope that I have taught you the necessary skills on how to handle yourself properly in all of those different situations in life, and have you make the right decisions to be emotionally intelligent even if things will not turn out in your favor. Thank you.